Okay, today I want to talk about a feeling that I've had pretty much since I started taking pictures more than 10 years ago. And if you've ever had that little voice telling you, hey, what are you doing? And felt like a complete imposter, then probably this video is going to be useful for you. In short, I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about the feeling itself of imposter syndrome that we have when we're out there taking pictures, why photography triggers it, because I mean, sometimes I just do some other things outside and it doesn't trigger it as much as photography. Um, I also want to think about how we reframe it, or how we can reframe it at least. And well, from there, we can take some pieces of advice or some things that we can do in order to improve. This is a video that I'm doing, of course, for people that feel the same way I feel, but I'm also doing it for myself to kind of get me out there a bit more, because I think that more often than not, we're all feeling this feeling. So let's start. Let's talk about the feeling itself, now that I just repeated feeling so many times. And when does this feeling show up? I think it shows up, at least in my experience, in well, many places, but in three very specific ones. First of all is when I first go out to take pictures. So when I first grab my camera and go out and try to do something. It may be because I don't do it that often sometimes, or maybe it's just because I feel seen with a camera. And I've talked about in some videos that um, feeling like a tourist or thinking that you are a tourist in your own city helps, and it does, but nonetheless, it's not something that's top of mind all the time. So this is the first point, and I feel like once you get past that, it starts getting a little bit better. But overall, and every single time, and not only when doing photo shoots or photo walks by myself, but also when um, doing client shoots or something a bit more formal, let's say, has felt a bit tough in the beginning. So maybe you're feeling something similar. The second part, once you go through this first bump in the road, is the self-awareness that comes when just, or that moment just before taking the shot, right? The moment when you actually put your camera right in front of your face and you're about to take it. Why? And I think it relates to the first point, because you are making yourself seen more. And that is why sometimes, most of the time, at least in my experience, it really depends which camera you're using, because the bigger the camera, the more seen you are, or I am, or I feel. And that's why I've tried many things. So in the beginning, I started taking photos with bigger cameras, DSLRs, back when I started. And then I moved into mirrorless cameras that are a little bit smaller, but I didn't really get that mirrorless or moved into mirrorless because I wanted to be less seen, but actually because I just wanted something that was lighter to travel with. But then I started seeing the benefits of that. And then I moved into also trying out compact cameras such as the Ricoh GR series, and recently also the Fujifilm X106. And overall, in the experimentation, I found that I feel the most comfortable, of course, because the way I am an introvert, um, with a smaller camera. Nonetheless, and I've mentioned this in other videos, that the phone could be the best camera to take pictures on the street without being seen. But I think that also the benefit or the joy, or let's say, of photography for me is not only coming from using my phone or not being seen fully, but using my tool, right? So I like using my phone when I really don't want to be seen, uh, or I want to be more, uh, let's say, blending with the streets. But I do enjoy grabbing a physical, real camera. So I think I fall in between compact cameras and and phones, especially nowadays. My mirrorless camera is now sitting here in front of me, filming this, filming videos basically. And the other moment, and the other moment actually when it shows up is right after the photo shoot has happened, and when I am reviewing my pictures and I find that some of those pictures are not flawless, and some of these pictures are actually quite flawed. Sometimes technically, sometimes I have more grain when I shouldn't, sometimes I missed focus, sometimes well, although not that bad in some cases, but I missed the white balance, and or the shutter speed is a little bit blurry. And in some cases that makes me feel, hey, you failed at this. And I'm pretty sure this is not happening only to me, and I hope that this video reaches someone that also happens, that this happens to. But the point is that, first of all, I wanted to identify the moments in which this tends to happen the most. Because, and now going into the next point that I wanted to talk about, is that photography triggers it more than other things, right? As I said in the beginning of the video, I do other stuff on the street. I do other stuff in public, let's say, right? I'm working a 9-to-5 job as a tech product manager in a tech company, and I do many things in public there, and I don't feel the self-awareness I feel when taking pictures. Even though taking pictures and making art, let's say, is my passion, let's say, it's something that I really enjoy doing. But I do feel like a fraud in a way there. And I think this relates to a few things. First of all, that it is done in public, right? Unless you are doing product shots on your own in your own studio, which would mean that maybe you're not necessarily a hobby photographer or an outside of your 9-to-5 kind of photographer. But most of the cases it happens in public. So people see you with a camera, people assume or would assume certain level of authority from your side, and maybe we don't really feel like we compensate that. And this relates to the other point of why photography, and this is, I think, because photographer, or the title photographer, is an identity claim, right? So basically, being a photographer just says something already, or calling yourself a photographer even more. And of course, there are professional photographers and people that go to photography school to actually become real photographers that do this for a living, and some other people that do it for fun, some other people that actually take pictures and are very good and actually started making money out of photography without actually going to photography school. And it at least begs the question of, then who can call themselves a photographer? Do I need a certificate in order to call myself a photographer? Do I just need to take pictures? Should I take the professional part out of the title if I don't make money with client shoots? This gray area also kind of makes it more difficult for a person like me to try to identify, okay, this means this because of that. So I need to be more structured. I work better with structure. And some people work like this, better with clear, defined guidelines. And by not having it, and in art and in the world of art, we pretty much won't have it or have them all the time or at all. The whole point is that it should be something. I mean, we should be open to call ourselves photographers. Why? Because we are making this, right? You're taking pictures, and sometimes, in some cases, some people are taking amazing art without making even money from it. So maybe not professional photographers, but you are a photographer for sure. maybe a point for debate. I'm really curious of what people think. At which point you can be calling yourself a photographer. In the end, I don't necessarily have an answer for that. I want to create some debate. So if you have some opinion, put it in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, or to read your thoughts on that. And the other point on why photography triggers it is because it's solitary, right? It's you alone with your thoughts, which I love, to be honest. That's the part that I love of photography. But one of the other sides, I will not say downside, but one of the other sides is that you are alone with your thoughts. So there's no one else to tell you, hey man, you're actually kind of doing a good job, or not doing a good job, or whatever, right? So it is you maybe sometimes believing you're better than you think you are, or worse than you think you are. It can be a double-edged sword. So I think those are the reasons why photography tends to trigger this kind of thoughts, this kind of just revolving thoughts in a way. And those are, let's say, in the way that I wanted to put this video out. These are kind of the frame, but I do want to reframe a little bit to help the people that want to go out there and take pictures to maybe do it more, right? Because I mean, I don't, even though I have these thoughts, I really don't think that this should stop us from doing it. So if you ever were thinking of stopping, don't, because that is not the point. That's not going to be the conclusion of the video. In the reframe, I did want to talk about this Dunning-Kruger effect. I think it's an effect. I will check later. But the Dunning-Kruger, which basically means that something along the lines of people that are incompetent basically don't know that they are incompetent, so they continue doing incompetent things. But people that are competent tend to actually feel like they're failing, I think, and therefore you think that you're doing it wrong or worse because you are just more aware of how things should be done, right? So I think that if you are going through this, and assume, at least assume, some level of competence, or at least of awareness, or of taste, let's say, right? Because you are most likely progressing if you are feeling like some things are not going well. That's my thought, at least. And the other point is that discomfort can also mean that our critical eye has improved, has evolved. So that's the reframe, right? Again, I want to make sure that people that are feeling like this, and I, myself included, kind of look at it from the perspective of not, yes, I am a fraud, but actually, no, I'm more self-aware of these kind of things because I'm improving. So, of course, not every case is the same, but for me, is something that, at least right now, makes me feel better about going out and taking pictures. This doesn't take away, of course, from the fact that when I go out there, I will take my camera and I will still feel a little bit self-aware. But that is just, I think, also part of the personality. And I don't think that will change fully. I'm okay with that. And people that go through it should also be okay with that. It's just a matter of continuing doing art because we like it. And the other point, and maybe if I can extract some advice from this whole conversation over here, is what would I do in these cases, right? And again, this is something for the us of the future, and it's about experimenting, trying it out, etc., etc. One of the things I would recommend would be to cap input. Sometimes we just consume so much, especially nowadays, right? We have like loads and loads of information coming our ways from many different places, from many different apps, services, YouTube. I mean, you are consuming this, so most likely this is just one of the one of the pieces of input that you get. but cap it, and especially the ones that make you compare yourself too much, because yeah, to some extent that helps, but at some point you just need to go out there and take stuff and take pictures, which is another one of the advices that I would um, that I would well, recommend, which is ship, right? And this comes a little bit from my experience as a product manager, because in product management and in tech, you just need to put things out there. Put things out there, and then you'll get feedback, and then you'll improve it, and then you need to just have an eye on the market, let's say, but not an eye that's necessarily always there, but there at the important times, paying attention to the important things. And on the other hand, and not less important, is defining our version of what a photographer is, or an art maker, or a creator, or whatever you're doing, right? Because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, maybe we don't want to call ourselves photographers because, yeah, you feel like that's too much. You feel like you should have gone to school to do that. You're doing it for sure. But maybe write down, what do you think the version of photographer is it that you're comfortable with? Because some people may not want to be the professional photographer that does this full time and nothing else, right? In my case, I said already what I do for my 9 to 5, and I don't really want to stop doing that. I mean, to me, life is only balanced when you do the logical and the creative. And for me, that is just how I'm wired. Some people may be different, some people may be similar, but the whole point is that you need to define what that means for yourself. That's what I'm trying to do as well, as part of what I do in this channel as well. Just trying to put things out there. It's just basically photography combined with some tech product management methodology, let's say, but subtle. In any case, the takeaway here, I would say, would be that define what you think is your version. I would call it version of success, but I mean, what is success anyway, right? So your version of photographer or creator or whatever you're doing, because you're maybe not watching this necessarily for photography commentary or discussion, and roll with it. Cap a little bit your input and just go and ship, and identify which moments maybe make you feel the most uncomfortable, because then maybe you can play around a little and kind of work with these situations. In any case, I want to leave it here. I would like everyone to know that I have a newsletter where I also dump some of my thoughts like this on, well, photography, introversion photography, tech, tools, and all the things that I find interesting. It's going to be in the description. And if you're interested in more information about what can help you if you are an introverted photographer, once you define what photographer is, you can have a look at the video over here where I talk about actually cameras that I ranked based on how good they are on making you be more invisible. I talked a little bit already in this video, but anyway, see you there.